back to Morning Joe. Joining us now, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Kasie Hunt. Kasie, good morning. Good to see you. So yesterday, Mika kind of sent you on a mission.
Well,
it was a challenge.
I just had a question for Kasie.
She had a question that you then conveyed to lawmakers on Capitol Hill about the president. What'd you find?
Oh, how'd it go?
It was a good question that she had. And, I have at times asked simple questions. Democrats faced some tough ones in 2014 when asked to defend then President Barack Obama. And I think this is another example of President Trump putting members of his own party in a little bit of a tough spot. Take a look.
Do you think that President Trump is honest? There have been questions about his phone calls with the Boy Scouts and with others.
You know, I know y'all like talking about whether or not he actually received a phone call. I'm not going down that road. Most people don't think he's honest, if you believe this poll. He's got an image problem he needs to deal with.
Do you think the president is an honest man?
Yes, I do. I think he has a good time sometimes, but I think basically on very important issues, he's very honest.
Do you think the president is an honest man?
Yes.
Is that a no? Or a yes?
I'm not going to play the game.
One question, please. I just want to know if you think the president is an honest man. It's my one question.
I'll catch you.
Do you think the president is an honest man?
I think it's hard to build the confidence level you need to when there's so much contradiction that's all been recorded. So, they have to be a little bit more careful how they're saying things.
So that poll that Senator Graham referenced.
Kasie, when you're going after Ted Cruz, it looked like a reporter, going after like a suspect. Like, where's the body? Where's the body? I'm not talking. I'm not talking.
Isn't the answer to this pretty simple? Gene's paper has documented 836 lies or misleading statements. That's 4.4 a day. I don't think it's a question anymore.
But it is.
He lied about the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
He lied about the boy. A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous kind of beating. Trustworthy is the first one.
But Ted Cruz, Kasie Hunt, said
he was running from
he was running from. He said he wasn't going to play the game.
Slammed the door. Look at Kasie.
and the shades.
And Rand Paul also.
Oh my gosh,
just
she's
going to
so
spend
funny.
his
Like the Action News,
so
they're showing a tire ring that they're exposing.
Anybody talk to you off the record? Say, I can't tell you on the record, but off the record, yeah, he's not honest.
Well, look, in fairness to, first of all, Senator Paul, he doesn't always stop. And, there were potentially other questions he was running from. Ted Cruz, I saw 3 separate times in the hallways, and 3 separate times he refused to say anything about it. I mean, look, this is another example of, exactly what we talk about all the time on this show, which is that every time something like this happens, these members of Congress say to themselves privately, not again. And this is the dynamic that they're all having to deal with. I mean, between the president's 33% approval rating and the fact that he keeps doing these things in public, he puts them in a terrible position.
But if you look, though, Kasie, at Ted Cruz specifically, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump used the National Enquirer to accuse Ted Cruz's father of assassinating JFK. He used the National Enquirer to accuse Ted Cruz of having 6 affairs. He used the National Enquirer for these other attacks. He put up tweets saying that Ted Cruz's wife was not attractive, basically. Like, how hard is it for Ted Cruz? I mean, if you accuse my father of assassinating JFK or plotting along with the 9/11 hijackers,
like the truthers.
I'm going to be able to go, yeah, no, he doesn't tell the truth. I think it's kind of extraordinary that Ted Cruz can't answer that question when his own father has been accused of assassinating JFK.
And what did he say at the time, by the way? Didn't he call him a sniveling something? There was a wonderful Ted Cruz quote from that moment.
Well, Ted Cruz has a couple problems. One, a lot of the people that support Donald Trump are the same people that support Ted Cruz, and if he pisses them off, it's a problem. Yep. And 2, some of Ted Cruz's biggest patrons behind the scenes in the conservative movement have leaned on him really hard to stop criticizing the president, and he's gone along with that. I mean, he definitely is somebody that, you're right, there was a point where he had no fear of attacking President Trump, but it's shifted dramatically. And I think, look, another dynamic here too is we all know that the president watches the news. on TV. And a lot of these members, whether it's Ted Cruz or anybody else, they've learned that the quickest way to piss the president off is to be seen on television saying something critical. So even if they're willing to write something critical.
So what's the number? What is the number? It's at 33, and uneducated white males now at 40-some% approval. What is the number, Joe, where the Ted Cruzes of the world feel it's safe enough to come out from under that rock? Is it 27?
It's a liar.
Is it 23? Is there a number?
I can't speak to them. I can speak to myself. If somebody attacked my father, somebody attacked my wife, I wouldn't, and if my donors told me you can't attack the president, I would tell them to go straight to hell. And I'd say, I'll tell you what, I want you to do two things. Number one, go straight to hell. And number two, find somebody to primary me. I'm going to beat their ass. And then I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to make your life over the next 6 years a living and breathing hell because you want me to defend a man who attacked my wife's looks and said my father had a part in assassinating John F. Kennedy. Now, a man that won't stand up and do that, a man who is looking at polls to try to figure out, and listening to donors, to figure out whether you defend your wife or your father's memory, that's a guy I just don't understand, Donnie. It's not about poll numbers, it's about character. How could Ted Cruz, of all people, after his wife was attacked and humiliated, and after his father was linked with the most heinous assassination
through the Inquirer
in U.S.
friend of
history,
Trump's.
how could Ted Cruz not answer that? Of course he doesn't tell the truth. He lied about my father.
Spineless.
He lied about my mother. He's lied about me. He's lied about 6 women, made their lives living and breathing hell. He lies all the time. Of course he lies all the time. I'm still going to try to pass legislation if it's good for the people of Texas and America, but he's a liar.
Beyond the morality, Joe, and you and I talked about this the other day with Flake, to me, it is no-brainer politics at this point.
It is.
Forget even the strength and having a spine and having any moral compass. It's even good politics.
Here's
at
what the
this
Republicans
point. And
don't
that's what's so
understand.
stunning about it.
Here's what some of these Republican senators don't understand. That when you show courage, people are drawn to it. Drawn to it like somebody hungry for water in the desert. Jeff Flake, everybody say, oh, Jeff Flake, this is so dangerous. No, it's not. Jeff Flake's going to win re-election, and he's going to be able to go to town hall meetings. I know you love Donald Trump. I know you voted for Donald Trump. Okay, I'll tell you what. I don't. I'm concerned about all these things. But you know what? If we can pass tax reform and help the small businesses of Arizona, I'll do it. If we can pass regulatory reform, I'll work with Donald Trump. Doesn't mean I have to like him. You'll work with people at work that you don't like.
I care about you more than Donald Trump.
Yeah, but I'm here to help you. And if Donald Trump wants to help me, help you, we're good. But don't expect me to like this guy. And that's what Ted Cruz should have said. He attacked my wife. Now, if somebody attacked your wife at work, what would you do? If somebody said your father assassinated JFK at work, what would you do? You'd have to work with him, but you don't have to like him, and that's where I am. That's what it takes. People love that. They love courage.
That's the headline.
None of
They
these
forget the
people
subheadline. They
have
forget the
courage. We've
subhead.
talked about it before. The biggest lane, the widest lane in American politics is the Republican that stands up like Jeff Flake and says, I'll vote with him, but it doesn't mean I have to like him, and it sure as hell doesn't mean I have to respect him, because I don't. There's nothing to respect there other than the fact he raised some good kids. You say that, and I know, because I went after Gingrich in my district when he was really popular. It's gold. It's political gold, and only Flakes figured that out.
And Donnie, to answer your question about where's the courage, we didn't see a lot of it there because I think a lot of people don't want to go on the record and call the president a liar explicitly, a guy they have to work with. But we're going to talk to Senator Chris Coons in a moment. His co-sponsor, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, has come out now publicly in interviews and said it is time to start taking authority back from 1600 Pennsylvania and back into Congress where it belongs. John Thune said the same thing yesterday.
Good for them.
These are on the record comments. It's time for us to be an equal branch. The power does not lie at the White House.
John Thune, and let's go down that. You're right. John Thune did. Tom Tillis did. Lindsey always does. John McCain, God bless John McCain. Ben Sass. Like, that list is getting longer. Ben Sass, of course, has been strong from day one. one, but that list is getting longer of Republicans that will stand up and speak truth to power.
And speaking of the kids,
And by the
we're gonna
way-
be reading
by the way,
from your piece in the Washington Post
I want to be
about
careful
the kids
when I say
coming
this.
up.
I'm not saying to vote against Donald Trump and be liberal. Speaking truth to power is not about being moderate
Right.
or being liberal. Be conservative, but still speak truth to power.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.